everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Soul-u-tions podcast. My name is Tara Simkins, and I am your host. Today, I have a treat for you. I am going to share with you some of the secrets, the details, let's just say, give you a little amuse-bouche, if you know what that is, about what it's like to be in the Soulshine Labs. So, whether or not you're thinking of joining the Soulshine Labs or not, I want you to listen to today's episode, because whether or not you join, there's going to be some ideas, some takeaways for you, some things that will inspire you that you can do on your own. And maybe, if nothing else, a seed will be planted that the life that you dream of is not only accessible to you, but is possible for you, and that it may not be as out of reach as you think. So, listen to the intro, and I'll meet you back on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So, whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
For those of you listening on your typical podcast platform, this next thing I have to say is not going to be relevant. But for those of you who are watching today's podcast on video, on YouTube, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than what I usually do. I'm going to be reading from what I've written and what is on my webpage. I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I want to share with you, the listener, with you, the reader, with you, the person who knows me intimately, with you, the person who is getting to know me by listening to my podcasts and following me at Soulshine Labs on Instagram, or if you're on my email list, which you can get on at tarasimkins.com or on Instagram and the link tree. But, it's such a funny thing, this business that is possible for me today. I never would have known that it was possible for me back when I was starting law school. It's so crazy. But, the 22-year-old Tara, who was graduating from college and who thought she wanted to be a professional ballet dancer, but whose parents came to visit her in her senior year of school. They drove all the way up 4.5 hours from Augusta, Georgia to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to say, "Hey, we'd love to have a chat with you about your future." And they sat me down to say, "Listen, if you want to be a professional dancer, that is great and wonderful. We don't really know how to envision that for you. And we have a pretty good feeling that financially that's going to be a tough lift for you. And we've given you your education, but we're not going to be in a position to support you for the rest of your life. Like, this is the point in your life at 22 where you need to start thinking about who you want to be in such a way that whoever that person is that you want to be, that you can do something where you'll be able to support yourself in doing it, so that you are not thinking that, we as your parents are not going to be able to continue to do this for you. Like, this is the appropriate, what we call nowadays, they didn't call it back then, but this is the quarter life dilemma, the dilemma of anybody who is in their mid-20s, this quarter life dilemma of how do I bridge the gap and become a person who can support myself and support the lifestyle that I want to have. And so my parents drove all the way to Winston-Salem, North Carolina on that Saturday to pitch the idea of me seeing myself as a lawyer in the future. And I remember they made the case beautifully. My dad was a lawyer, and my mom, did a mashup of all the qualities that she thought that I had developed as a dancer that would translate into the courtroom. There's this idea of stage presence. There's this idea of performing, this idea of putting yourself out there, this willingness to do that, and combining that with the intellectual kind of curiosity that I had and the ability to learn new things. I was an English major. I loved to write and to read. And so there were all these components that went into their sales pitch. And then the closing piece was, and if you would like to go to law school, we would like to help you pay for that part of your education. If you want to be a professional dancer, you're going to have to figure that out from the beginning, from the date of graduation on how to finance that. And at that moment in time, I had no idea how to finance a professional dance career. And I did know that it was nothing was promised at that point. It wasn't like I had a contract waiting for me. There would be a lot of trial and error. There'd be a lot of auditions. I would probably need to wait tables, have another job while I was pursuing this dream. And the idea of the security of being a lawyer, knowing that, okay, I would have a job, I could find a job with this skill set, this expertise. And also, I was intrigued by this idea of being a lawyer. I really thought that I could be a good lawyer. So anyway, that was back in 1989. And I went to law school. And here it is, 2024. And I'm a life coach. And I've been coaching people one-on-one and hosting classes for 10 to 15 years. But during this time, I've had this other dream. And this other dream is that I wanted to create a place for women in particular. As I said, and all of the information that I share on this podcast is for men and women, no matter your age. Like, there's some nugget you can take for you. And in my coaching, half of my one-on-one clients are men, and I live in a house of men. So it isn't anything about that. What it was about, though, is that as a woman whose family was important to her, who wanted to have a family, that woman being me, and who equally was important to her to have a career or a profession, something that I was really good at, and to earn money and to be able to support myself at a very high level. When I started out practicing law in 1992, the challenge was, for my generation, we were told you can do anything you want. Like, the future generations had paved, the past generations, had paved such a beautiful roadway for my generation and for perhaps your generation that has come behind me. But we had some bumps in the road that came with that. And part of that was this integration of what are traditionally women's roles in your personal life, in a family life, and how to integrate that at work. And the best advice for me at the time was given by my father again. And he said, listen, we don't want to know how hard it is. Nobody's going to want to know how hard it is for you as a woman to practice law as a man. And in fact, if you talk about the challenges in this environment, it is probably going to actually be detrimental to you rather than beneficial to you, because it's going to, there's already this perception, not conscious, but what we would call an unconscious bias that, like, this isn't really the place for women, especially women who have children, that there was this bias that understanding you're going to be kind of, your attention is going to be split between what you do at home and what you do at work. So you don't want to, talking to me, my father, the you being me, Tara, you don't want to do anything that is going to feed into that bias. What you want people to think is that you don't have any responsibilities in your life outside of showing up in this office every day for your clients. And so that being a woman and showing up in the workplace was one thing. And, I got married and, I could navigate that. But when I started having children, and I had 3 children in 4 years, so there they are, and you're taking maternity leave and you're pregnant, like all of a sudden, this image that I had tried to avoid my entire life, a professional life up until that point, that, oh my gosh, I have other responsibilities outside this office, that I might not be able to be available for 24/7 for the work being done here. I began to just feel like there was nowhere that I could go and no safe place that I had to talk about the issues that I was coming up against as a professional woman with a family. Fast forward, a kid with pediatric cancer, increased issues like that, to the point that I eventually left the law because I didn't know how I could balance the two. The family part of the responsibilities just became so much bigger. I could not ignore them anymore. And this is basically the old conundrum of work-life balance. And I was such a student of work-life balance, consuming all the things that I could consume, and always it seemed to elude everybody who was a student of work-life balance. And it wasn't just me. It was other friends who were women, who were doctors, who weren't even married, who were single. They were facing the same thing. So there's I started just doing what I do, which is observing and listening to maybe the people that needed a place to go and felt like there just wasn't a place where you could go to learn how to do these things. So that's when the seed of the Soulshine Labs was planted in me, in my heart, in my soul, and in my head. And so I have been steadily kind of living into that vision of this idea of a place where women could come, where women of any age, whether you're working or non-working, whether you have a family or not having a family, but just a place where you would be safe to discuss women's issues and not be judged on it. Because I felt like in my workplace, I couldn't talk about my family life. But then in my social groups with my friends who were not working, had children, I felt like I couldn't share with them what was going on at work. And I just didn't have even my friends who were in the same boat as I was, we were so busy and there was no place. We were kind of spread out in different cities and across different things, that there was no meeting up place that was natural for us to come meet up here. And then I read this book that is a beautiful book, and you may have read it, and it came out about 25 years ago, called The Red Tent. And it's set back in the Old Testament times of, if you remember the story of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Well, this is a story about Joseph's family, and in particular about his sister and his mom. But the name of the book, The Red Tent, derived itself from an actual red tent where women would gather once a month. And the color red was symbolic of the reason for the gathering, which would be that the women in the tribe all had their periods at the same time. And so, not having a lot of the modern conveniences that we have back in the day of the desert, what they would do is they would just all come under one roof, one tent. And the older women who were menopausal and no longer childbearing years, they would take care of the women who were pregnant and having children. And then the younger women who were coming into this rite of passage as young women and starting to have their periods. And this is the place that for 7 days out of a month that women just talked about the things that women talk about and the challenges that would arise in their day-to-day life. I mean, it could be something as simple as sharing, recipes, book recommendations, or navigating harder issues, maybe issues with intimacy about your partner, or maybe a child who wasn't thriving, and or maybe the financial burdens of the day. So it was safe to come into this tent and to talk about these things. And then the women would share the wisdom of how they got through those times. And it would be this bit of I guess what we would call today kind of a group, not a group think, but a kind of a brainstorming or a contribution to it. And so I was like, golly, when I was reading this book, wouldn't that be amazing if there was a place like that now, because I really feel like I could use it. And at this point in my life, I was 37. Fast forward to being in my 40s and having a real opportunity after I had been certified as a life coach, still practicing law. But I was like, I think I could start. I needed to have deeper conversations. I needed a place, like for me at that point in time, having really stood on what I would call the precipice of real life and death, a child in ICU a number of times being told that he would not survive or wouldn't. It very much, I think, like a soldier who goes to war and is, on the front, and then they come home. Like, there is something that you miss about the intensity of the time on the front, as gruesome as it is. For me, that intensity, I felt like I couldn't handle the small talk. I just couldn't handle the small talk of all my friends or the little everyday problems. I felt like I needed to stay in touch with that soul part of myself, like the part of myself that needed to stay connected to a deeper sense of meaning, that wanted a place to come that I could have deep and meaningful conversations, filled up by those conversations that enabled me to go back out into the world and be a normal person who could talk about, the smaller problems of life that feel really big but not be life and death, if that makes sense. And so I started this group called the Pilgrim Souls. Anyway, over the last 14 years, it has morphed into the Soulshine Labs. And it's like at a turning point, I think, in the history of this group now, where we've had so many beta tests and we've been through like we figured a lot of things out. Let me just put it that way. We have figured a lot of things out. We have figured out what works, what doesn't, and how to do things differently. And so we're now at a time in our history that I'm like, we're ready to really, really grow, to open our doors, to expand our tent, and to welcome in more and more women. And so I thought I would just read to you kind of what I have written. And if you go to my website, tarasimkins.com, this is what you're gonna hear. Welcome to the Soulshine Labs. It's possible to be the mother, wife, and daughter you want to be, and discover the next big vision for your life. The Soulshine Labs annual membership is where you'll discover there's room for both your responsibilities and your dreams. You've spent so many years being the pillar for your family, a family you love and adore, a family that makes your heart overflow with love. And to them, you're the firefighter, the solution person, the fixer. In so many ways, you've relished the responsibility of the roles that you have in their lives. But now you find yourself spending more and more time feeling exhausted, frustrated, and worried about, or perhaps even dreading what's next. And you've spent year after year looking for what it will take for you to do it all better, to manage your time even better, to set better boundaries, but still meet everyone's needs. Build your capacity so you don't feel so swamped and overwhelmed by all of life's challenges that come up for you and your loved ones. You tell yourself, if only I could figure out a way to do it all better, then I might be happy. Then I might get to be one of the 25 people who make it to my priority list. But the self-critical voice in your head gets louder and louder. If you're feeling this way, you must be doing something wrong. Surely that's the case. Because you followed all the rules and the recipes for happiness. Yet, here you are, moving into a new season of life, only to be left feeling unappreciated and stretched to your limits. There is a way to move into this next season of your life and experience the joy, fulfillment, and focus you've been craving for so long. No matter what transition point in which you find yourself now, whether it's equally in love with and bored to death by motherhood, or with a child who needs you to fight for very specialized medical and educational needs, or lost, lonely, and sad as the children you so brilliantly raised are moving on to live their best life without you, or feeling unprepared for caring for an aging parent. There's a better strategy for making it through than simply push harder, try harder, do more, be better. A way that frees you from the guilt, negativity, anger, resentment, sadness, and diminishing returns on trying harder, and instead allows you to show up as the calm, steady, compassionate, well-spoken, and wise woman you want to be. Once you learn to tap into this new, more effective strategy as a way of being, that's when you'll be able to access the intentionality and inner voice to guide you through your next direction in life. Wondering how I know this to be true? Well, I'm Tara Simkins, and I coach highly capable, resilient women who are looking for a better way to do this thing called life. A way that includes actually loving the life you're currently living and has capacity for both your responsibilities and your dreams, including discovering what those dreams even are. I know all too well the feeling of being lost within the woods of a life I was supposed to love or thought that I would be in love with. It first came in my late 30s. I was a partner in a law firm with 3 kids under the age of 5. My husband won the lottery of sorts with an enviable position that required his time and attention on the golf course, while I was struggling to prove that being a mother of 3 was not a career breaker. It came again in my 40s when my middle son, Brennan, was diagnosed with leukemia and went through 4 life-saving bone marrow transplants in 3 different children's hospitals in 3 different states over 10 years. And it felt all too familiar in my 50s as I struggled to integrate a deep sense of grief and gratitude for the challenges my family had been through while learning to move forward instead of bouncing back. Let's not even mention the added difficulty of managing all of these things while having absolutely no clue of the havoc perimenopause and menopause was wreaking on my body. Frozen shoulders for 3 years, in my mind, the brain fog and depression, and on my body itself in this visible, visceral back and belly fat. Where the heck did all of that come from? I decided to create the classes, teachings, and community I wish I had back then to guide me through those challenging times. I took what I've learned in my 12 plus years of running my coaching business as a certified coach and money coach, 25 years of experience as a lawyer and partner with one of the top law firms in the Southeast, my involvement on multiple boards and civic organizations, plus my experience in creating and co-founding the Press On Fund, a nonprofit for pediatric cancer research. And I paired that experience with my unique blend of psychology, spiritual teaching, strategy, practical problem solving, and self-discovery to share the classes, coaching, and mentoring I needed to navigate life in my 30s, 40s, and 50s. Then I created the container and community to help you take whatever experience you have, whether expected or unexpected, to create something beautiful and meaningful moving forward. This is the Soulshine Labs. It's an annual membership where you create a personal practice to listen and explore the deeper questions bubbling within you. In the Soulshine Labs, you will learn the discipline of bringing intentionality to whatever is presenting itself in your life at this juncture. This is the space where you'll refocus on yourself, what you need to do, who you want to be, and how you want to choose to think about the circumstances in your life. So from this place of power and ownership, you're able to hear what is being called for you and the things that go wrong, to not give up on your own longing and desire, to doubt and criticize yourself less and less, to trust and believe in yourself more and more, to confidently press on toward the goal of loving your life. This is the place where you'll experience more powerful inner shifts and transformations in a single workshop than some people experience in a year of therapy or self-reflection. The Soulshine Lab process pairs soul and science in an evidence-based curriculum that combines your rational mind and the wisdom and messages of your feelings so you can make decisions and take action from this practice of intentionality. And so the process is so easy, and it's so easy because you can teach it to anyone. I'm going to go through each of the steps here. Step 1, stop. Stop when something isn't working. You'll learn how to stop instead of simply pushing and trying harder. This skill takes self-compassion and a willingness to be present with yourself. Step 2, look. You'll learn the self-coaching process to be able to look at the circumstances and facts of your life so you can notice what's actually happening and get clear on exactly what is and isn't working. Step 3, listen. You'll practice actually listening into your thoughts and the feelings they're creating so you can learn from their wisdom. Your emotions all carry messages within them. What is your anger, your guilt, frustration, resentment trying to tell you? You'll learn how to tune into what that message is. Step 4, evaluate. This is all about discernment, discerning and evaluating the data, the actual facts, and the insights you've collected from the previous 3 steps of stop, look, and listen. And step 5, the final step, is the pivot. Now, after going through those first 4 steps, you are in the best position to be able to intentionally pivot out of the pushing, the struggling, and be able to change direction into possibility from a place of true inner wisdom. Here's what one of our members has to say about it. I just wanted to send you a brief message, thanking you deeply and personally for the content you shared. It was remarkably powerful and transcendent in a way that even a year of intensive self-reflection and therapy has not accomplished. Your content I listened to today has given me an incredible springboard and toolbox to navigate through this next chapter of life, where I'm learning it is still valid and necessary to have boundaries. You'll learn, practice, and hone this 5-step process throughout your time inside the Soulshine Labs. And as you do, you'll notice your increased ability to see more deeply, wisely, and access the true inner voice that guides you to be the calm, collected person you want to be. So instead of guilt showing up and turning into a shame spiral, you'll be able to observe it as an emotion and use it to pivot. You can use it as a signpost to compassionately learn that next time you'll make a different decision, or to speak up for yourself, or to decline that invitation to Christmas this year. Okay, so if all of this sounds delightfully yummy to you, I want you to know what you'll actually find, what's waiting for you inside the Soulshine Labs membership. There's an online course website. In it, as soon as you join, you get instant access to the Soulshine Labs online course platform, where you'll learn the Soulshine Lab process, the 5-step process, go into more detail with examples, and you'll learn how to apply it in your life, in your specific situations. So that's one thing. You have this library of online classes. It's like 4 years worth of biweekly classes. Then in addition to that, you could just join and just start by participating in the live weekly classes as your schedule allows. So we meet twice a week for live weekly coaching on Tuesdays from 12:30 to 2 Eastern Time, and on Fridays where we do our intentionality, that 25-5-3 workshop. And if you have grabbed my free masterclass, you know what this is. If you haven't, go grab it at tarasimkins.com. But we take the same free masterclass that I've given to everybody to use, and we just have a study hall every Friday where we just meet for an hour and we set a timer, 25 things that are working in your life, 5 things that aren't, 3 things that you're going to do differently. And then we take time to actively celebrate what's working in our lives, like reinforcing that positivity bias, like reinforcing these new neural pathways that we are creating in our lives, as well as just feeling the sense of appreciation for ourselves and the time, the money, the energy that we've invested, and seeing how the investment of this time, energy, and money is like paying off in dividends and saving time, energy, and money in our real life. So the Tuesday class is a time to learn and be soulful. And in those classes, we dive into whatever the signature monthly curriculum is. And that changes, but it changes in the sense that these are all topics that are applicable to women today. And because it's a live class, you have this opportunity to interact with the ideas and share with me, or one of my coaches, ask the question like, well, how does this apply to my life? This is what's going on in my life right now. How would I use that idea, Tara, to make my life easier? And the reason this is important is because I know for myself, like when I'm at my wit's end, when I'm completely overwhelmed and I need help, the hurdle that keeps me from asking for help is that I don't even know where to begin to ask for the help. Like that's a real hurdle for me. You don't have to know how to ask for help. You simply have to show up at a call on Tuesday, listen to the curriculum, like get inspired, have a few of your own ha-has, like I've never thought of that in that way before. This is new and different. Maybe it could work for me. And then ask, like, how do you think this would work for me, Tara? I'm single, newly divorced. I don't have any kids. And yet I'm on the precipice of like having to rethink what I thought my entire life was going to be like. You're talking about this idea in connection with a mom who has an empty nest. Like, how could I apply that to my life? And then I just simply, because I have coached so many people in my life, I know how this process works, how the ideas work in every single factual iteration that you could ask me. I am the expert there. I am here for you to be able to say, this is how you do it. This is how it would be helpful to you. Think about it as if you had fallen and hit your arm and your arm hurts and you go to the orthopedic surgeon, you go to the orthopedic surgeon because you're in pain. Something has just happened. And you just show up and the orthopedic surgeon asks you questions, does an evaluation, x-rays, scans, whatever, comes back and gives you the diagnosis of, is there a break? Is there a tear? Is there a sprain, right? You don't have to tell the orthopedic surgeon that. You don't have to say, hey, doctor, I need to have my arm put in a cast and blah, blah, blah. No, you just show up. And it's the same thing for these classes. You're just showing up because you're a woman and you weren't meant to do all the things that you're doing on your own or in a silo. You were meant to do it in community, just like the red tent of old. And this is your new community where you can just say, oh my gosh, how would this apply to me in my situation? And listen, you might be someone who never, ever, ever wants to get coached. You might want to be a back row person. You just might want to listen to the recordings. That is okay. You know how you learn the best. And so if you prefer to simply watch others being coached and listen to them being coached and still experience the deep shifts and the aha moments to apply to your life, you can do that. And let me tell you what, I have been in lots of coaching calls and in coaching containers. And sometimes for me, I am that person who just wants to sit back and listen because my nervous system, I get so nervous about talking and doing all the things. But I can see and hear the patterns and watch someone else be led in the coaching with a big aha. And in that moment, I can see her transformation. And I think, oh my gosh, I think that same transformation is available for me. What if I do the coaching that Tara suggested for myself? And I've taken that, y'all, I've created so many amazing changes in my life, so many just transformations in my own life just from participating in that way. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It is just your way and your preferred learning style. Here's what someone else had to say in the Soulshine Labs. I want to thank you for your wisdom and guidance during this Tuesday's class. It was like magic. What has manifested since then is surprising and amazing. I had an interview yesterday with a woman's integrated health center for a role that I've been wishing for a long while. I feel like I'm heading towards my Dharma and a new delight and lightness and freeness. I love this work that you're doing and teaching us, feeling centered and grounded. I've been observing when my thoughts are trying to rewrite the past and bringing them back to the present. I mean, that is like a huge aha and a huge part of the curriculum. Is like, I'll notice when you're talking about your story or sharing your narrative or someone else's, I'm like, oh, this is something that happened a long time ago. It happened once in a moment in time, but every time you think about it now, you're reliving it and you're causing new pain in the moment. And so learning how to stop that, that's just a natural way your brain works, and pause there, right? And then learning how to begin to intentionally set your sights on building things in the future beyond that pain. That's what we do when you're in the Soulshine Lab. Here's another one from one of our OG members, another concept that came up. It's the yes-no concept. Just wanted to say thank you for that yes-no concept you shared in class the last 2 times. What a great thought process. I just applied it to a business partner issue, my nanny and my weight, and it was super enlightening. So do you hear in that comment how I have like curated the tools that I use to simplify your life in a way that you can come to one class and get one concept and use it in a business partner situation, with your child care, with your own weight, and walk away feeling so enlightened. Here's another question. I can't come to class, Tara. It just does not work with my schedule. Okay, you don't have to. We've thought about that problem as well. We have on-demand access to all the recordings. I told you there's a library of recordings from 4 years ago, but the recordings, if you just want to start listening to them immediately, within 24 hours of a Tuesday class, the recording is up with a synopsis and a group discussion in our private community that's better than Facebook, because it isn't Facebook and you don't get distracted. The same thing with our Friday classes. Those are up before the weekend. So you don't need to be able to attend or watch every single call in the membership to notice phenomenal results and how calm, collected, and capable you start to feel in your day-to-day life. Because all the call recordings are inside this private membership and private community portal, you can watch on your drive, not watch, listen on your drives, on your walks, or any time you prioritize yourself on your calendar. The Soulshine Lab community, this is like, I think, the super secret sauce to the Soulshine Lab are the women who are in the lab. So when you join the labs, you have the opportunity to join what I mentioned was this private community that isn't on Facebook. And I promise you, this is the most non-judgmental, confidential space where you can connect and receive support from each other, even without me, right? I have people that throw up there like, anybody want to try to go 40 days of complaint-free living? And someone else will say, I want to. And you automatically have this built-in accountability partner system and receive support from each other through your own growth alongside other women who are a values match to you. This call to let your soul shine is not going to go away, my friend. You might deny the call to discover what's next for you because of the busyness in your life right now. But, and I speak from my experience of the experiences of hundreds of other women, that call is not going away. It will only get harder to ignore because you've already tried everything. You've done absolutely everything you're supposed to. You've squeezed out every additional second there is to squeeze out of every day. You've taken advantage of every bit and morsel of your own time and given it to others. That's why you don't need to spend another second trying harder, exhausting yourself even more, and falling deeper into frustration, resentment, or even apathy. Now is the time to try a different approach, the Soulshine Labs approach. So I hope you will hear this and feel so totally inspired that you'll want to join us in the Soulshine Labs this fall. Simply the link to tarasimkins.com or in the show notes, just hit that and go to join the Soulshine Labs. And listen, I want to have full transparency here. It is an annual membership. That is for a reason. I want you to stay in for 12 months. I don't want you to just try it for 1 month and drop out, or 3 months and drop out. It takes a while sometimes to figure out how to get this into your daily routine. That's okay. Sign up now, and then you can put all the calls on your calendar and you will try to reach them versus waiting for a gap in your calendar to join. The other thing is, it is $1,200 investment. You can pay it in full at once. Some people like to do it, or you can split it up into 12 monthly payments of $100. And let me tell you what, it's cheaper than a bottle of rosé a week for all the benefit and classes that you get. So really, really, really think about giving yourself this place that can make your life so much easier. We cannot wait to meet you. We cannot wait to fall in love with you. We cannot wait for you to meet us and figure out how you can live that life of your dreams, that you can balance all your responsibilities with all that you know is possible within you. All right, my friends, thank you. This was a lot longer than I expected to do for you. Have a great day.
'Cause I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight and your courage is all